Did you know Moroccan cuisine is famous for its savoury sweet dishes? This is one of the more popular ones, lamb and prune tagine. Lamb is cooked with a load of earthy spices until tender, and then prunes are added to give it a kick of sweet fruitiness. The different flavours and textures layer together perfectly, which results in an incredible bite of food. Luckily, that bite requires minimal prep, and you don't really need to do much before you get it cooking. Start off with a couple of onions, which need to be chopped into a small dice. As these cook in the tagine, they'll break down into a delicious sauce. The next thing you need is some saffron. Just a small pinch of this will do, and you can leave it whole or grind it with some salt to extract more flavour. Pour on some boiling water and let the saffron dissolve to make liquid saffron. You also need a small amount of parsley. You should strip the leaves from the large stalks and then run through them with a knife until finely minced. Now we can start the cooking process, and the key to every good tagine is slow cooking. Tagine dishes are made in these clay pots called tagines, which is where they get their name. These special pots trap in moisture and braise the ingredients so they emerge tender and infused with loads of flavour. Thankfully though, you don't need a tagine to do this, and you can achieve a fairly similar result using a regular pot or slow cooker. If you do want to use a tagine, we covered how to properly use one in our chicken tagine video, and the cooking instructions are pretty much the same as for a pot. For now, break out a large pot and place it on your stove over high heat. Add in some olive oil, and once the pot is heated you should add your meat in batches. Our meat of choice today is lamb leg cubes, but you can use any sort of stewing meat. I'm working with bone-in lamb because it will give the tagine a deeper flavour, and since this will be slow cooking, I'm using larger pieces so they don't shrink too much. Let your meat sear in the hot oil, and when it's a little browned, flip over the pieces. Continue to do this in batches until most of the meat is seared, then pile it all into the pot. This searing can get really messy and smoky, so make sure you crack open a window. Once you've cleaned up the mess, you can start building the layers of flavour by adding in the finely chopped onions. Follow the top with a few cloves of garlic, which you should freshly mince into the pot. To season, you'll add in salt, turmeric and black pepper, as well as ground ginger, dried coriander and some cumin. Give that all a toss to combine with the meat and onions, and then we can deglaze the pot. Combine the saffron liquid with some more water, then pour it in and use your spoon to scrape any brown bits from the bottom of the pot. Bring this up to a light boil, then add in your finely chopped parsley. Once that is mixed, cover with a tight fitting lid and reduce the heat to low. This should cook until the meat is fall off the bone tender. For bone-in lamb leg that means around 1.5 hours on low heat. Every once in a while check it with a fork, and continue cooking it until you're happy with the texture. While the tagine is cooking, let's make the important accompaniments for the dish. First up is some toasted sesame seeds. Add some white sesame seeds to a dry pot over medium heat. It's very easy to burn these, so keep mixing the pot for about a minute until the seeds turn this golden brown colour. Pour them out and cool them by mixing for a few more minutes, otherwise they'll continue to brown. Another component is fried almonds, and I like to keep these on hand to garnish most dishes. Add some oil to a pot over medium heat, then add in a bunch of blanched almonds. Fry them in the oil for about a minute while mixing until they reach a light golden colour. When ready, use a slotted spoon to pull them out of the oil, then place them on some paper towels to dry. The last component we need is a side dish. This tagine is mostly eaten with some sort of crusty bread, and another option is rice. Because of how flavourful the tagine is, plain flavoured rice works best to carry the flavours. Add some long grain rice to a strainer and wash off all of the starch until the water runs clear. Place a pot on the stove over medium heat, then add in a piece of butter. Once the butter has melted, add in the rice and fry the grains for a couple of minutes until they're all coated in fat. That will keep the grains from sticking together, giving us fluffier rice in the end. We'll keep the seasoning simple with only salt and black pepper. Then pour on some water or stock to cover the rice. Add enough so it's covered by about 1.5 centimeters, then bring the pot to a boil and cover with a tight fitting lid. Let that boil away until the water disappears below the rice, then turn it down to low and cover once more so it can steam for 20 minutes. Let's go back to the tagine, which hopefully has reached the desired doneness. If it has, we can go on to prepare the prunes. Start by extracting about a half cup of spiced broth from the tagine. If there isn't much broth, dilute what is there with some water. In terms of the prunes, try to get moist and plump prunes like these, which can be used right away. If you can only find dried prunes, soak them in boiling water for a couple of hours until they're soft and plump like these ones. An unconventional step that I like to do is to slice some of the prunes into quarters. I sliced about half of my prunes and it makes it easier to distribute them in the final dish. Once they're sliced, head over to the stove and add the prunes into a saucepan. Add the spiced liquid you removed earlier as well as enough water to cover the prunes. Turn the heat to high and let this boil for about 10 minutes. When the time is up, you should have a thick looking sauce like this. We'll add some sugar to increase the sweetness a little, and then some cinnamon to round out the flavour. Mix those in, but don't be too vicious, otherwise you'll break the whole prunes. Once that is mixed, add in a piece of butter and then fold that in until it's fully melted. That is the prune sauce done. I'll just pick out the whole pieces to use them later when plating. In terms of the rice, as you can see, it has perfectly fluffed up, so now we can put this together. You'd usually serve the prunes over the tagine, but I find mixing some of the sliced prunes into the tagine helps to balance the flavours of the dish. As you can see, the meat is so well cooked it's almost shredding itself. Once you've added the sliced prunes, transfer everything to your serving dish, and then add on the whole prunes, some of the fried almonds, and a few pinches of toasted sesame. After getting approval from Maple, I garnish with a little chopped parsley, and that's the tagine done. If you haven't had this tagine before, I suspect you'll be blown away by the flavours. From the earthy meat to the sweet savoury kick, it is incredibly well balanced. So if you're exploring the world of tagines and want to see more of these amazing Moroccan dishes, check out this chicken tagine next.